kind of basic information about the escape room that you may need to know that will come in handy at certain points. Um, and also, we'll kind of cover what you're kind of expected to do at certain points during your shift. When you first get there, and when customers walk in the door, when they're in the room, when they're done with the game, and after they're done. You should have a copy of this packet. It should have been attached to the email here, but let's get started. Some basic info about Plainview escape rooms. Okay, now, most of it's pretty straightforward, but you do need to know it. Pricing. So for groups of 2 or 3 people, it's going to be $25 a person. Sometimes that's going to come into play. If you remember, we require that you have a deposit, quote unquote, for at least 2 people in order to reserve the game, right? So it's possible that someone reserved a game and they only pay for 2 people and they're expecting a third person. If that's the case, that third person is going to be charged $25. Let's say that they're expecting, 4 people, 5 people, whatever it is. Well, in that case, groups of 4 or more, it's actually just $20 a person. Okay. Um, for kids between the ages of 5 and 10, it's $15 a person. For kids under the age of 5, they are free. So that's kind of our general pricing. You gotta know it because sometimes it comes up. I'll try and include it in the notes in the When I Work app whenever we get a shift, but you got to know how much to charge people in certain situations. Okay, so who can play? Well, anyone can play, any age can play, but if you're under 16 years old, you must have an 18-year-old present, preferably in the room with you. So we have had instances where, it's a kid's birthday party and they don't necessarily want their parents in the room with them. And so in that type of situation, if they're under 16, you got a bunch of 12, 13-year-olds or something like that, that's okay. But we do need an 18-year-old present. In that type of situation, we really want a parent present. They can't just drop them off if they're under 16 years old. Someone needs to be there to kind of be accountable if something were to go wrong, or someone were to get hurt, or if something got damaged, or something along those lines. We need someone there, kind of for liability purposes, and you can explain it to parents that way too. Just say it's our policy. We need to have a 18-year-old present. It does say it on our website, and whenever you go to book, a lot of people kind of skip over that, but it does say it on our website that is our requirement. By the way, also the thing about anyone being able to play, like the kids under 5, we're not going to charge them. Okay, they are allowed to bring young kids if they want. Obviously, kids under 5 are not going to be any help and they might get bored. It's possible, depending on the kid, that they might hurt stuff and damage stuff. We don't get a lot of kids that come in the room, but occasionally it does happen. Usually it's something along the lines of parents can't find a babysitter, and so they take their kid with them and they play the game. Okay. The next section, store hours. You do kind of need to know this too, but during the school year, Monday through Thursday, 4:15 to 7:45. And when I say 7:45, that's when the last game would start. So actually, your people would be in there until roughly 8:45, and then you would be there another 45 minutes or so to kind of do the reset and clean up and stuff like that. Okay, so you could be there till about 9:30. Fridays 4:15 to 9:30, 9:30 being the start time. Saturdays 11 a.m. to 9:30, 9:30 being the start time. And by the way, it doesn't spell this out for you, but we have start times every hour and 45 minutes. Okay, so you might have to kind of do the math, and you'll eventually kind of get used to it and figure out when our start times are. But every hour and 45 minutes. Okay, so like on Monday we have one at 4:15, we have one at 6 o'clock, and we have one at 7:45. Okay, so just every hour and 45 minutes is when we have a new start time available. Okay, during the summer, super easy. It's just Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 9:30. That's our hours during the summer. And by the way, that'll also be true. It's not on here, but that'll also be true, generally speaking, of like Christmas holidays, of spring break, stuff like that. We'll just open up every day, 11 a.m. till 9:30. Our hours are going to change, obviously, whenever school's in session. Um, we don't want our employees having to be out late or having to miss class or something like that in order to work. The available rooms that we have at the moment, be familiar with the rooms. You can go on our website and watch videos over each room. Mental Mayhem is kind of our beginner level room. You're stuck in a mental hospital, and the doctor there is testing you to see if you're sane, and he's got these tests, and you got to prove your sanity, otherwise you get a lobotomy. The zombie game, you got to prove that you don't have the zombie virus to get into like this compound type thing that's virus free, and it's also kind of considered more of a beginner level game. The roommate, you're in college and you played a lot of pranks on one of your roommates named Steve, and he's getting you back on graduation day. He's locked you in the room, and you got to get out to make it to graduation. So a little bit more lighthearted compared to most escape rooms. And then the Roommate's Revenge is a sequel to the Roommate. It's also considered an intermediate game. By the way, people do not have to play the Roommate first before they play the Roommate's Revenge. It doesn't really matter. The stories are kind of connected and they're kind of related. The rooms are, but it's not like you need to know something from the roommate in order to do well in the Roommate's Revenge. All right, but the Roommate's Revenge, Steve's kind of back at it again. This time it's your bachelor party, and he's trapped you in the wedding party in his cabin, and he's just kind of having fun with you and messing with you, and you've got to solve his puzzles in order to escape. And by the way, he's also live streaming all of this to the wedding guests that are patiently waiting. Spy Another Day is our advanced room. It's quite difficult. If you get walk-in customers, I would try and steer them to one of the beginner level games or intermediate games. I wouldn't go straight for the advanced game. It really is pretty challenging. Spy Another Day, it's right at the end of the Cold War, and there's a Russian general that is upset that the Soviet Union has fallen apart, and so he's planning a bomb in the United States, and the Soviets have brought you and your team in to try and figure out all the puzzles in his office and stop the bomb and deactivate, I should say, the bomb. Okay. So walk-ins, we've touched on this a little bit already, but walk-ins, they're good for us. They can be a little bit of pain to deal with because you might have to juggle a little bit in order to deal with the walk-ins, but also make sure that the people in your room aren't being ignored. Okay, so we encourage people to book ahead, reserve ahead, and it's in all of our advertisements these days. And hopefully, most people are calling ahead or booking online. We're not getting as many walk-ins recently, and I think that's a good thing. I think people are learning that you need to book in advance. But we do still get them, and so what do we do whenever there's walk-in? Okay, so we schedule you based on bookings in advance. But if you have a group that walks in, ask them if they have a reservation for the room. By the way, you already know the answer to it, but be polite and say, hey, do you have a reservation for one of our rooms? Assuming they don't have a reservation, which they almost certainly don't have a reservation, then ask them if they're interested in doing a room. Okay, say, depending on, you might have a group still in the room. Your group may already be done and you're just working on the reset process or cleaning or whatever it is. But you may want to, the next thing, give me a call to make sure that the room that they want to do at the time that they want to do it is available. Okay, so just give me a call real quick and we'll figure it out pretty much from there. And we'll figure out who's going to work it and all that kind of stuff. In order to reserve a room, they've got to pay for at least 2 people. So there's that rule again. Got to pay for at least 2 people as a deposit. The other people can pay later. That's fine, but it encourages them to show up, and it covers us if they don't show up. If there's 2 people that have paid, then we can still pay our employees and not lose tons of money and stuff like that. So they may end up having to wait a while to actually play, depending on if you still got people in your room or whatever it is. If there are still people in your room and you still got 30 minutes left, give me a call, give me a text, and we'll try and get someone up there as soon as we can. It may be me, it may be another employee, but we'll try and get a game master up there as soon as possible. Yeah. So, yeah. And sometimes if your room is done or close to it, then that group or that person, whoever, that person may be you that game masters it, and that group just going to have to wait for 15, 20 minutes or whatever it is. That may be the case. It really just depends. We just kind of have to play it by ear. And like I said, sometimes it's a little bit of a pain. We want to take care of those walk-ins too. But sometimes it's a little bit of a pain and you got to juggle a little bit. Speaking of juggling, if your game is still going, you need to kind of step out of our control room. So you're going to be watching the game, you're going to be listening to the game. In our control room, you got headphones, and so you might have to kind of step away from your game for just a few minutes and kind of answer their questions and get them rung up through the Square app if they're going to end up playing a game, and give me a call. And then whenever you get back to your group that's already in the room, you might just get on the microphone and tell them, like, hey, by the way, the last 2 or 3 minutes I was dealing with a customer. Hopefully you didn't need anything. Let me know if you wanted a clue or whatever it is. Okay, so occasionally, yeah, you got to juggle a little bit whenever those walk-ins come in. This really actually hasn't been an issue yet, and hopefully it never is an issue, but there could be foreseeably some problems with a group. That's this kind of last section here. If a group's being destructive and not following the brain over brawn rule, we'll reference that a little bit later. But if they're destroying stuff, if they're prying stuff open that they shouldn't be with their bare hands or whatever it is, if they're damaging our props, that kind of thing, we need to, depends on what they're doing, but we need to give them a warning. And if it continues, then we just need to ask them to leave. If they're upset about it, that's okay. That is understandable. You don't need to be the person that fixes it. Just go ahead and give them my number and tell them to talk to me, to call me. And depending on the situation, we might be able to get them a refund or a partial refund or something like that. It's just not worth our stuff getting destroyed. Again, fortunately, we really haven't had a lot of groups that have been disrespectful to our property, intentionally, destroying things. Yes, stuff gets damaged, but we really haven't had a lot of people, anyone that I know of, that has intentionally tried to destroy stuff. So another thing that could come up, fortunately, again, hasn't really been an issue, but if there's a group that's under the influence, obviously under the influence of alcohol or drugs or something like that, they can't do our rooms, and that's for their safety, that's for our safety, and you can explain it to them that way, and hopefully they understand that. But they can't be in the rooms when they're not in their right state of mind. And if they're upset about it, tell them to call me, and we'll try and get them a refund or something like that. But or reschedule them. But we just really can't take that kind of risk. Unfortunately, hasn't really been an issue. All right, so let's talk about at different times during your shift what you need to be doing, what you should be doing. So when you first arrive, you walk in the door. You're going to need to turn off our alarm. It's literally like the first thing whenever you walk in. That alarm's just sticking there. We've got a keypad. You're going to have your own 4-digit code that you're going to put in there, press disarm. There you go. Alarm's taken care of. You're going to turn on the lights whenever I train you in store. I'm going to show you where everything is, so don't worry. But we're going to turn on the lights, the air conditioner, heater, whichever one's necessary. By the way, just generally speaking, don't mess with the air conditioning and the heating. We have it set at a certain temperature that generally is pretty good for most people. Now, occasionally you might get a group that's a little hot or a little bit cold or whatever it is, and if that's the case, then yeah, you can kind of mess with the air conditioning a little bit, but put it back, please. Um, Once you've taken care of those basic things, then number 3, you need to finish the last bit of setup in the room that your group will be doing. Remember, you're going to go to the control room and you're going to pick up the map, quote unquote, for your game that you're doing. And there is a when you arrive section. There's a checklist. You go into the room and you set the alarm and or not the alarm, the timer, I should say, the little kitchen timer. You go in there, you turn on the lights, you turn on the speaker. There's a bunch of different things for each different room. So get the map for the game that you're working. Go through that checklist. Make sure everything's good to go for your specific room. Okay, so put that map, of course, make sure you put that map back in the control room. Don't leave it in the room, but take care of those things. It's kind of covered in the other video about the maps. Okay, you need to make sure that we have waivers ready. I'll show you where they are when I actually train you in store, but they're in that kind of main desk. Make sure that we have some waivers ready to go. Get out the iPad, it should be charging. Get out the card reader, it should be charging. Chip reader, etc. In case you need those things, and you probably will a lot of times, so just go ahead and get those things out. Have them ready to go just in case they brought an extra person or they need to pay for some people in store, whatever. Okay, they want to buy a t-shirt, whatever the case may be. Just have it ready to go. And then you're going to turn on the control room TV. Make sure that it's good and working and you can see in your room and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of important. And make sure that you have the rules and info video ready to play on the TV in the lobby is really what that should say. Okay, we've got a TV in the lobby and we show a little video for what people can and can't do in the room, and we also give them a little bit of strategy and stuff like that. And then we'll also show them kind of a trailer, quote unquote, for the room that they're doing. And I'll show you more of that when we actually do our in-store training. Okay. Pre-game instructions. So at this point, pre-game instructions, that means the people have arrived. Okay. So greet them. Okay, don't be weird, but greet them. Be personable. Be friendly. Hey, welcome to Plainview Escape Rooms. Tell them your name. Okay, my name's John, and welcome to Plainview Escape Rooms. And you have the booking for 4:15, or just kind of make conversation with them. Okay, so greet them. Have them sign our waiver. While they're signing the waiver, ask them if they need to use the restroom. That's the next bullet point down here. But ask them if they need to use the restroom. And if they do, make sure you kind of point them where the restroom is. I'll show you that in the store, but it's kind of in the back. You may kind of remind them that, if it comes up in the middle of the game that you need to go to the bathroom, you're going to be okay. But remind them that we're not actually locking them in the game, stuff like that. Make small talk with them when they first come in and they're signing that waiver. I really like to know the next bullet point. I like to know if they've done any other escape rooms, if this is the first escape room they've ever done. How do they hear about us? That's always good for me. We advertise several different ways, and so I'm kind of curious what's working and what's not working, and so how they hear about us. Was it on Facebook? Was it word of mouth? Did they get a little coupon, stuck to their car at Walmart? We do those kind of things, and so I'm kind of curious what got them to come to our escape rooms, and Yeah, ask them. It's good for you to know. Are they here for a special occasion, like a birthday party, anniversary, stuff like that? And by the way, if they are here, well, use that information. Part of your job is to enhance their experience. Okay, our games, our rooms, they're really pretty good. Our puzzles are really solid. People have a lot of fun in our rooms, but you can make their experience even a little bit better by being friendly, like we know that you are. Okay, be friendly, and make conversation with them. And if it's their birthday, tell them happy birthday, happy anniversary. Just people like that kind of thing. So do that. Whenever you post on our Facebook page, whenever you post their picture, if it's their birthday or anniversary or something like that, well, make special mention that, oh, this couple came to celebrate their anniversary. Can't think of a better way to do it than trying to conquer Steve's puzzles in the roommate. Something like that. That helps. It goes a long ways. Um, and this next point should really kind of be once they get in the room, but it kind of fits here too. But if they've got a whole bunch of stuff, and if they're carrying around, purses and bags and keys and phones and stuff like that, we do have a little wicker basket in all of our rooms to hold that kind of loose stuff. It's not actually part of the game, but it's just there to hold stuff. Um, so from here, where it's all caps, to the end of this little section, it's all stuff that's covered in our rules and information video, but it's also stuff that you really need to know. And the reason you need to know is because you're the game master. For example, you need to know this one right here, brains over brawn. If they're using excessive force to open stuff, then we need to make sure that you need to make sure that you let them know that they can't do that. You need to give them a warning, and if they continue to use excessive force, then you need to kick them out. Actually, so you need to know the rules. You need to know the green sticker rule. Green stickers are stuff that might be part of the game, but you don't need to pick it up and touch it. Okay. Oftentimes it's has nothing to do with the game. Sometimes it's part of the game, sometimes it's not part of the game, but green stickers means you don't need to pick it up and play with it. It might be fragile or something like that. It might be something that is difficult to kind of fix, or anyway, green stickers don't play with them. The video kind of emphasizes that it's our escape room. We're kind of psychologically trying to let them know that we're letting them use our room, and there are other people that want to use our room later on, and we need to make sure that we keep things in good working order, and that we don't break stuff pretty much. Okay. You also need to know it's included in the video, so this is all explained to them, but our clue system. We give 3 free clues, but after that, we'll take 1 minute off of your time for each additional clue. As far as the best time goes, as far as the record goes, we take 1 minute off. Okay, they'll still get their hour. In other words, we're not going to literally come into the room once they ask the 4th clue and open up the timer box and take a minute off the kitchen timer thing. We're not going to actually literally do that. Okay, but it's just if you have a group that got out in 25 minutes, and it would have been the #1 overall record, but they asked for 5 clues. Well, the first 3 clues are free, but clue #4 and clue #5 we take a minute off for that time, and so actually it would have been 23 minutes is what you would have put on our little record board outside the rooms. Hopefully that makes sense, but we don't actually literally take away time from them. It's just as far as the record time is concerned. And by the way, you may have to re-explain that to your group, like if they're towards the end of the game and they're like, well, we've already used our 3 free clues, and I don't want to use the 4th clue because we're going to run out of time. Well, you're not going to actually run out of time. You just may not make it onto the record board, and so you might have to explain that to some of those groups. So make sure you know your stuff there. During the game, I don't have much because there's not that much for you to do during the game. Your main job is to make sure that they're not breaking stuff, and if they ask for a clue, give them a clue. Other than that, you kind of sit back and relax a little bit. Okay. Um, Now, that being said, you're going to have your map out and you're going to be following along. For some games, especially like Mental Mayhem, for example, there's a lot of puzzles. There's a lot of stuff. I actually just use like a dry erase marker. We've got some of those in the control room, but I use a dry erase marker to kind of mark through the stuff that they've done and check it off as they go. So that way, if they do ask for a clue, I'm not like, oh shoot, what have they done? What have they not done? I already have it marked out and I can see what they haven't done. I can give them a clue and kind of get them going in the right direction. Some of our other games, you might want to have a dry erase. Some of our games are really pretty easy to follow, like Spy Another Day. It's pretty linear. It just kind of goes one thing at a time, so it's relatively easy to game master that game. Um, anyway, during the game, just know that okay, it's okay if some groups don't get out. We're not going to have a 100% success rate, and that's okay. Um, don't don't say anything unless the group specifically asks for a clue or if they're about to destroy something. Those are the only two reasons that you should be talking to them. Occasionally, we have had employees that have been really chatty with them, and the group's kind of trying to solve this puzzle, and they think that they've got it, and they think they got this code. And we've had employees that will, get on the microphone and say like, nope, not in that lock. It goes in this lock over here, or no, you didn't do it right, or if it were me in the room and I had someone telling me all of those things, I'd actually get really annoyed. I want to figure out things for myself. That's kind of the whole point of escape rooms, is to be able to see if you can figure it out for yourself. Okay, so don't give away free clues and free hints and things like that unless people ask for it. There's a lot of people that would get pretty frustrated by that, myself included. Okay, so only let them struggle, and sometimes it's hard, especially if you know that group. But only give them help when they ask for help, or if they're about to destroy something, you need to get on the microphone and tell them not to destroy that thing, or don't do the thing that they're doing, or whatever it is. Okay, so generally speaking, that's kind of the only two reasons you should talk to people. Now, that being said, if you sense that a group is getting a little frustrated and they're stuck, and okay, don't just volunteer information. Okay, don't just give them free clues, but you may want to remind them, hey, by the way, you still have 3 free clues. Okay, and that kind of lets them know, like, oh yeah, we do have 3 free clues. We're kind of stuck here. I don't know if we're going to figure this out. And hopefully, okay, they'll ask for that clue. But if not, that's their call. Some groups want to do it. They want to try and do it without taking any kind of clues. It's really extremely rare that they get out without taking any kind of clues, but it happens occasionally, and that group may be that. Also during the game, kind of be looking for things that the non-alphas, quote unquote, did, and try and frame their experience by pointing out their contributions. What I mean by that is, people that go into our rooms and kind of take over and are trying to figure out every single puzzle. They, in their own mind, they already think that they did good. Whether or not they actually did well, they already think that they did good. But sometimes those non-alphas that kind of poke around the room and maybe only solve a couple of puzzles, they maybe don't feel like they did very much or did anything at all, but be paying attention whenever they do stuff that is valuable. And afterwards, after the game is over, you can kind of point out some of the things that they did do and how, you know what, your group wouldn't have gotten very far if you didn't find this clue over here, if you didn't figure out this puzzle over here. They may have only figured out one thing or one clue or whatever, but it kind of helps shape people's experience psychologically. They feel like, what, I actually did do something, and they're more likely to come back. Um, Post game, let's talk about that real quickly. So after the game is over, you're going to meet them in the room and kind of debrief them. Whether they won or lost, you're going to meet them in the room. If they won, just kind of ask them, hey, what'd you think? What was your favorite part? Did you have any questions on how anything worked? If they lost the game, if they did not escape, you're going to basically do the same thing, except you're going to ask them if they want to know how the rest of the game works. More often than not, they probably want to know. And more often than not, they got 80, 90% of the way through the game. Okay, occasionally we get some groups that come in and they don't even get halfway through the game, and at that point, I would tell them, if it were me, I would say, well, you got about halfway through it. Do you want me to tell you the rest of it, or do you want to come back and try again? And at that point, they may choose to say, you know what, I don't want to know the rest of it. I want to see if I can come back and figure it out. I want to bring some more friends and see if we can figure it out later. We occasionally do get some people that replay a room. More often than not, they get far enough along to where they just want to know the rest of the game. Okay, so tell them the rest of the game. And if they're really close, if they're on the last puzzle or two or something like that, and there's no game afterward or whatever, and you want to let them finish out the game, that's not the end of the world either. Okay, but be careful with that too, because you don't necessarily want them to be in there for the next 30 minutes figuring out the rest of the puzzles either, because you've got to reset the game before your shift is up. Number two, before they leave the room, just ask them to kind of pat themselves down and make sure they didn't put anything in their pocket. Occasionally, we have had people accidentally take something that they shouldn't have taken. It does occasionally happen. It's been very rare though so far. So just kind of tell them to check themselves before they leave the room. I guess I already explained number 3. Number 4, if they set a record for the room, be sure and ask them for a team name. Write it on the board. There's a whiteboard outside each room. Make sure that if they do get a record, for example, if they take the top slot, make sure that you bump the former top slot to the number 2 slot and the former number 2 to the number 3 slot. Just make sure you move those team names down. So number 5, I'm asking if they want to take a picture. Way more often than not, people do want to take a picture in front of our sign in the lobby. I'll show you that when we actually train you. You'll see it when we actually train you in the store. But take a picture with your phone and then post it on Facebook later on. If you don't happen to have a Facebook account, you can just text it to me. That's the best way to do that. And if you can, again, 99% of the time, people want a picture on their phone too. So ask them, hey, can I take a picture with one of your phones too, so that you can post on Facebook and whatnot. By the way, it's not on here at the moment, but we have a little bit of a deal with them. There's some signs in our lobby that say this, but if they check in to Plainview Escape Rooms on Facebook, I'll send them a code for 10% off their next visit, as long as it's by the end of the following month. Okay, so if we're in September, by the end of October, they need to use this code, and it'll be for 10% off their next visit. What we found is that word of mouth is kind of the best way that we can advertise, and whenever people check into Facebook, other people will ask them, hey, what'd you think, did you have fun? And their word goes a long ways. We can advertise all we want to, but word of mouth really truly kind of ultimately is the best advertising tool that we have. A lot of people don't know what escape rooms are, and they don't know if they're going to be any good, and so word of mouth is going to be our best form of advertising. So really, really encourage them to check in. And by the way, this is really important, but whenever they check in, they need to make sure that it's public. So like in the little upper left hand part of the little thing, whenever you go to post on Facebook, there's an option for public and private. Make sure that it's public, otherwise I can't see that they checked in and I can't send them a code. I have no way of doing that. So remind them of that whenever they do come, and tell them to check in publicly, and explain to them in that upper left hand part of the post. Okay. So number 6, resetting takes priority over anything else that you do. Make sure that you reset, but when you get a chance, post a picture to Facebook. We'll also see here in just a second, there's a closing checklist, and there's some cleaning stuff that you need to do as well. Number 7, get in the habit of double checking on the locks to make sure that they're actually locked. So whenever you're done resetting the room, please make sure that you kind of double check yourself real quick. Triple check yourself. We want to make sure the game gets reset correctly. The worst thing that we can do is not reset a room correctly. The next person that comes and plays is not going to have very much fun if they're able to skip half the game or something like that. So make sure stuff gets reset correctly. Make sure stuff gets actually locked. For our number locks, we set them all to 0. For our letter locks, most of them we actually set to farts. We're very immature. Sorry about it. It usually works on most of our letter locks. There are some exceptions. You'll see when we actually go into train. Okay? And then I'm not going to spend much time on this because we'll actually look at these things in store. But this is kind of our closing checklist. And this kind of goes in order of importance, more or less. Okay, but we got to reset and we got to make sure the speakers are turned off. We need to sweep, especially the room that you just game mastered. If you got the time, sometimes you got the time to sweep and clean and things like that, and sometimes you don't. It depends on how quickly your group gets there and how quickly they get out and how long they kind of chat and visit afterwards and stuff like that. But more often than not, we've got the 5 or 10 minutes necessary to sweep the room that you just did, or vacuum if it's got carpet. We do have a vacuum now, by the way, and in our supply closet, you'll see where that is when we train you in store. We do have a little robot vacuum, by the way, that can help us do some cleaning in the store that we can set, and I'll show you more about that when we actually are training in the store. If we got the time, it's helpful to be able to mop wherever we have tile. We'll tell you more about that in the store as well. Clean the bathroom, making sure there's toilet paper, paper towels, taking out the trash. We'll show you kind of all of that stuff a little bit whenever we're in store. Make sure the back door properly shut. The alarm, I don't think we'll set if it's not properly shut, by the way. Turn off our thermostats, the TVs, the lights, put up the "Sorry we missed you" sign in our front door, post to Facebook, enter the alarm code, lock the front door, and then you are good to go. So that's kind of our basic info about our escape rooms, and that also kind of tells you what we expect out of you at certain times during your shift. And by the way, there are some things that we just kind of absolutely require that you do. Like resetting the room, and let's say that your group shows up late and they take a long time and they chat afterwards. If that's the case, you need to make sure at least that your room gets reset. Okay, and maybe you kind of skip on some of the cleaning stuff. I get that. That happens sometimes. But you need to at least make sure that your room is reset. Well, it may take you an extra 15 minutes, and it may take you an extra half an hour, whatever it is, just so you know. If that's the case, we'll pay you for the extra 15 minutes, for the extra 30 minutes that it took to make sure that things are reset for the next group. Okay, that's your number one job, is to reset the rooms, and we'll pay you for that. By the way, we can see whenever the alarm gets turned off and turned back on, so we know whenever you're leaving the store, and we'll change We'll change your hours if necessary. And by the way, if we forget to change your hours in the When I Work app, you are more than welcome. It's not a rude thing. We're not going to take offense to it, but you're more than welcome to text me and say, hey, I actually worked an extra 15 minutes, actually worked an extra 30 minutes that day, and can you change it in the When I Work app? And we'll change it. We'll adjust it. Okay? So that is it for now.